welcome today. Just to introduce myself, so I'm Shannon, lead designer. I think probably a few of you already know me. I've worked at the company for 10 years and I'm very passionate about design and creating accessible experiences for all. And I'm excited to talk through accessibility today with Andy.
Cheers, Shan. I'm Andy. I've worked at ExtraByte for 11 years, those of you that don't know. I think me and Shan are the OGs. Been here for a long time.
Part of the furniture.
Yeah. Started in 2014 as a web developer, so a bit more of a technical accessibility mindset than Shan. Had a few roles, current one's digital transformation manager, and I'm a real advocate for doing things properly, and I think that leads us nicely onto today's topic.
Definitely. So today we'll be talking about web accessibility and how you can unlock your website's full potential.
Nice.
We'll just go through the agenda. So we're going to touch upon the importance of accessibility, particularly in the sort of digital interface.
So looking at some real world stories and setbacks that some companies have had.
We'll also go through the legal implications, particularly touching more on the European Accessibility Act as being the newest act to be launched.
Mm-hmm. We'll be looking at accessibility extra mile, so how it's sort of embedded in our processes.
And then we'll also talk about some quick wins and long-term actions that you guys can take and implement from today. But yeah, firstly, we just wanted to open it up a little bit and ask a question. So we just wanted to understand really your current state of mind with regards to accessibility. So we've got two questions there. We've got A, how important is accessibility to you? And B, how important is accessibility to your business currently?
Yeah, if you put the answers in the comments rather than speaking it out, just put A equals and then 1 to 5, 1 being not important or 5 being extremely important, and then do the same for B as well. We'll just give you a couple of minutes just to answer that.
Excellent. That's interesting.
Yeah, nice.
Amazing.
Good luck. I think that's everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes I would have thought that the answer to B probably would be a little bit lower.
Less, yeah.
Yeah, it tends to be that way. But hopefully, after today's presentation, we can give you some sort of ammunition to increase that for those of you that have marked that down. Shona, top marks.
Amazing. So let me just, we'll go back on this. Right, okay. So, a few fun facts just to start off. Did you know that 25%, so 2.2 billion people globally have a visual impairment? That's nearly 25% of the world's current population. So that's not taking into account any physical disabilities, that's just vision.
Yeah, and only 3% of the internet is accessible to people with disabilities. There's a digital divide that's presenting those people with a significant barrier for accessing vital information and just the websites in general. I think it really emphasises the importance that accessibility plays in today's society, especially when you've got a lot of in-person services that are moving to more digital-only experiences.
Definitely. And then the last one, 71% of disabled users will leave a website that's not accessible. I think that's an absolutely astronomical figure. And again, like Andy says, I think just solidifies the importance that it's always been, not just moving forward. A couple of myths versus reality as well. I always like to add these in. I find these quite interesting. So the first myth, so accessibility is only for screen readers. The reality is it actually helps everybody, including people with cognitive, motor and hearing disabilities.
Second myth, it's expensive and it slows down projects. Well, the reality is that it is cheaper and easier to build in from the start. It's the retrofitting that's costly, so going back and trying to make an already built website accessible.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one, so we don't have any disabled users. That's my favourite one. I mean, categorically you do. You just don't know that you do. 1 in 4 people today have a disability. Visual, physical, just in general, 1 in 4. So if your experience is not accessible, you potentially are losing 25% of your audience without even doing anything really.
Lovely. Yeah, I think on that last point as well, Shan.
Yeah.
It's just we need to remember that a disability is a spectrum.
Yeah.
It's not just you have a disability or you don't.
It's very black and white.
Yeah.
It's not very black and white at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Let's talk about the importance of accessibility then. So why accessibility is crucial.
Yeah, so accessibility enhances user experience. It builds brand trust and loyalty. It drives better SEO, and it makes you more competitive. And during this section of the ExtraByte, we're just going to run through those in a little bit more detail, just to see how accessibility does impact those.
Definitely. Let's talk about user experience first. Accessibility enhances user experience for everybody. Accessibility improves navigation, clarity, and creates a general usable experience for all. By reducing friction and ensuring consistency across devices, it creates smoother and more enjoyable experiences. It also builds brand trust and loyalty, so make users feel good about your brand. When a brand demonstrates care and inclusivity across the board, it strengthens trust and emotional connection. This commitment not only boosts reputation but also encourages positive word of mouth, and we'll touch upon why more specifically that's important in a bit.
Yeah. So, as I said, accessibility can drive better SEO and lead generation. And as Shan described with the user experience, accessibility improves engagement on websites. So you're going to get lower bounce rates and longer session durations, and these are real positive signals for search engines.
Yeah.
Accessible websites, they follow best practice, and they're more semantic, which is a word you're going to hear quite a bit over the coming slides. And this essentially just means that your website makes more sense to crawlers and bots.
Sorry, I touched that. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, let's go back a step. So you're looking for your web pages to have a clear structure. So with headings, alt text for images, some stuff that we'll touch on a bit later on as well. It's important to point out accessibility is not a ranking factor, but it indirectly impacts areas which lead to better performance in the search engine result pages. And finally, even the UK government acknowledges the impact of accessibility on their website, stating accessible websites usually work better for everyone. They are often faster, easier to use, and appear higher in search engine rankings. So yeah, accessibility
pretty much summarises it, doesn't it?
Plays a big part. And then finally, how accessibility can make you more competitive. Well, it expands your reach. An accessible website is open to more people, over 1 billion people with disabilities worldwide. It also supports the needs of aging users who benefit from clearer and more adaptable interfaces. So your website, content, products, they target a wider audience. It reduces friction, it makes it simpler for your audience to convert, so to make a purchase or to fill in an inquiry. It increases brand trust through inclusive practices. It shows to your customers that you care. And finally, you don't need to worry about fines or lawsuits.
The bottom line is accessible sites reach more people. They convert better, they rank better on search engines, and they just perform more consistently in general. Whilst also reducing your legal and technical risk, which is going to be important. We'll touch upon that a little bit more in a few sections. Building to WCAG AA, which is one of the standards we'll talk about, is a smart commercial strategy as much as it's just the right thing to do. I don't think we can really expand on that anymore. It is just the right thing to do. And let's talk a little bit about some real-world stories and setbacks, so what other brands have experienced with accessibility. I've got the job of talking about Domino's Pizza setback, and I don't know if anyone knows about this, but back in 2016, a guy called Guillermo, who was a blind man, sued Domino's Pizza, alleging that he was unable to order via their website or their mobile app using screen reading software, which is a major violation of the ADA, so that's the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the California's Unrest Civil Rights Act. So this was all the talk back in 2016. Domino's failed their users in many different ways. Obviously the biggest one being screen reader incompatibility. So the site was not coded for use with screen reading software. Key functions such as browsing the menu, customising pizzas and completing checkout could not be read aloud to blind users. They also missed alt text, so alternative text, so images of food, items and buttons did not have alt text descriptions, which meant that screen readers could not describe products, deals or navigation icons to blind users. Buttons and links were unlabelled and inaccessible, so many of the buttons like add to cart or checkout had no accessible labels. Screen readers could not interpret their purpose, which prevented blind users from ordering. Keyboard navigation failures, so the website relied heavily on the mouse to operate, so blind users who navigate keyboard commands with a screen reader could not move through menus or complete forms. The online forms were completely inaccessible. There was no input fields for delivery addresses, payments, login lacked proper labels, and errors were not announced, so users couldn't correct any mistakes. And then the mobile app had major accessibility barriers. Like the website, the Domino's mobile app lacked proper semantic coding, so we'll talk about that a little bit shortly. And blind users couldn't independently place an order through the app. In short, Domino's failed at the basics. Screen reader compatibility, labelled buttons, forms, keyboard navigation, everything, all of which are fundamental to ADA and WCAG requirements. And this really mattered to their business, and the price was paid, and rightfully so. Back in now June 6, 2022, the case was officially settled. The specific terms weren't fully disclosed, but what was disclosed was Domino's had to pay minimum $4,000 plus legal fees and damages, and it also majorly damaged their online reputation. I mean, it's still a talking point today. And you know, I know that from this, the Domino's have put a lot of money and effort into ensuring that their platform is now fully accessible. But you know, I think sometimes the damage is done, and it really does massively impact experience.
Yeah, it goes back to that start. 71% of users that have issues with accessibility on websites are not going to return.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, very important.
Massive impact.
Nice. I think it's probably only right we counteract that, Shan, by looking at how accessibility can have a positive impact for your business. So the Reverie Retreat wanted to redesign its website. They wanted to boost traffic and provide an accessible experience to all of their users. The new site was built fully inclusive, and it's certified to WCAG 2.2 level AA, which is the latest accessibility standard. And let's have a look at what impact this has had for them. So since their site was launched, they've had over 4 times more traffic to it, and this has led to a 50% increase in direct bookings. 1 year after launch, over half of their reservations are now completed on their own website, enabling Reverie to tap into the growing $7 trillion global spend of people living with disabilities, which is quite a big market, you could say. And this just shows when accessibility is considered throughout, so from the start, not retrofitted, it can have a massive impact on your business in a positive way.
Definitely. And obviously we talked a little bit about a few of the standards there. So you've got ADA, WCAG, and this kind of leads us into talking about the legal implications. So obviously in the UK we have the Equality Act 2010, and we also have public sector body regulations in place as well. In the EU we've obviously got the European Accessibility Act, which we are going to focus a little bit more on during this session, just because it's so relevant and so new. But we also have in the US the ADA, so the Americans with Disabilities Act. So
as Shan said, we'll have a bit of a deeper dive into the EAA. It's the most recent one, and it applies to both public and private businesses and includes websites as well.
So let's talk about the purpose. So it was adopted by the European Union back in 2019 to make sure that all digital products and services are accessible to everyone, including people with disabilities.
So this act was introduced on June the 28th of this year for all new services. So thinking about websites, that would be any websites launched after that date. And any existing websites have until June the 28th, 2030 to make them compliant. And it's important to note that existing websites, if they undergo substantial changes, is the wording that they use, they require immediate compliance. So for example, if your website falls under the European Accessibility Act, which we'll cover shortly, and you're having a homepage refresh, you would need to make sure that refresh adhered to the rules outlined by the EAA.
And then the rest of the site, you've got till 2030 to replicate the changes.
So who needs to be compliant?
So both public and private sector businesses with the following. So over 10 employees, turnover more than €2 million, and companies that offer products or services within the EU regardless of where the company is based. So even if the company is based in the UK but you trade in the EU, you need to comply with the EAA.
So the EAA applies to specific digital products as well, which we'll just run through. I think most importantly for us as a digital marketing agency that do websites, that is for, it applies to online shopping platforms and e-commerce websites. So if you're selling products to EU consumers through your website, you're going to need to be compliant, providing you meet the criteria Shan's just gone through. A bit of a grey area really with it is if you don't directly sell on your website, but you sell products to EU consumers, and then they would then go to your website to find technical information or downloads. They're going to need to have an accessible experience to be able to get the information that's relating to the product that they've purchased from you. We would strongly advise that the site is compliant if you fall under that category. But as well as websites, the EAA also covers ebooks, e-publishing platforms, social media content, so image and videos.
I mean, on that actually, social media, so I think, again, another bit of grey area. This is obviously when we're talking about the e-com side of things, so if you're selling directly via Instagram shop or TikTok shop or something like that, those platforms are what needs to be compliant. So you don't necessarily need to worry too much about personal profiles. It's only in relation to online shopping.
That also applies to computers and operating systems, audio-visual media services, digital banking services and ATMs, ticketing and reservation systems, telecom services, related equipment, and finally public transport information. So the EAA is quite far-reaching, and it covers a lot more than just websites. I think just a note before we kind of move on. I think accessibility and the rules around accessibility definitely seem to be getting tighter, more legislation coming out.
Yeah.
So if you don't fall under these categories, sooner or later, it's probably going to apply to you.
Definitely. And yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about how we prioritise accessibility here at Extra Mile. Just to emphasise as well, so we aim for WCAG 2.1 level AA for all of our sites since EAA came into force. Within the design phase specifically, so certain practices that we adopt just to ensure that accessibility is prioritised regardless of anything. Early planning, I think that's probably the top one. We make it part of the project requirements, not just an afterthought, so we think about that straight away when we have those conversations with the client. We ensure that colour contrasts are accessible, so for text, buttons and graphics, so anything that a user is directly interacting with will be fully compliant. We'll design clear and consistent navigation so users don't get lost, so we're prioritising a usable experience. We'll use accessible form fields with labels, error messages and instructions, and we utilise a lot of design tools, plugins and comprehensive checklists before the website goes into build.
Yep, so as the site moves into development, as Shan said, we design to WCAG 2.1, we build to WCAG 2.1 now for all of our websites that we build. As part of the development phase, the design phase, the developers are involved in design reviews, and they have checklists to go through, and part of that is an accessibility section where they make sure that there's not going to be any accessibility problems as far as structure, and also if there's any contrast issues that may have got slipped through the net, they'll look at those. We write all our code using semantic HTML, which as I said before, it's all about giving more structural sense to screen readers and search engines. HTML, if you're not aware, is sort of like the coding language that web pages are built with, and there's you can write very basic HTML or a bit more complex, and the more complex HTML has, it will make more sense to machines, and that's where you're really going to improve the accessibility of a web page. And then finally, we have specific checklists that the build needs to go through, which covers a lot of things like hover states on buttons and links. You're going to need focus states applied to all interactive elements on the page, so that if you're using a screen reader, you know what part of the page you're currently interacting with, and things like form labels, etc., and many more. There's also a few tools which we use, which I'll talk about in the testing and launching phase. Amazing.
So content phase wise, so we use clear and simple language when we're writing content, just so that content is easy to understand for all. Keep paragraphs short, and we use bullet points or lists to improve readability. And I think that doesn't just go for disabled users. I think it's just best practices for all to ensure that content is easy to understand and easy to read. Avoiding jargon, unexplained acronyms. If you are using acronyms, define them when they're used. If talk how you would talk as a human, I think is always a really good starting point. Highlight important information with text, so not just colour or style. I actually have an example of this. So my partner is colourblind, which is interesting as a designer. Lol. And I remember just doing some ad hoc design work, and he was like, "Oh, that looks nice," over my shoulder, and I said, "Oh yeah," and he said, "Oh, but what's that?" And I said, "Well, what I've done here is I've highlighted the text that I want to emphasise to the user in a different colour." He was like, "Well, I can't see that." I was like, "What?"
Really?
Yeah, literally couldn't see it at all. Jeez. And I thought that was mad, and that was the really defining moment for me, that I thought, do you know what, this is something that as a designer I'm trying to emphasise, took for granted as an individual that doesn't have any disabilities or visual disabilities. Like, the impact of just a single colour was it really blew my mind. That's really, really important to highlight. So when you're highlighting important information, it's really critical that it's fully accessible. Maintain consistent terminology, so rather that's, sign in, log in, just use one. You don't need to say sign in and then log in here, just use one. Don't make the user relearn.
Yeah.
And then provide captions and transcripts for video and audio content, so that's going to be a massive thing when you're creating media. And then from an SEO perspective, so we write meaningful alt text for all images and media, which Andy will do a demo on shortly. We write accessible metadata, so page descriptions, image alt text and document titles, which is obviously really important for search engine results pages. And then we also write descriptive page titles and headings to show structure and help with navigation, and also improve semantic structure as well.
Yep. And testing and launch. So all our websites undergo a peer review, so all the checks that developer has done, there will be another developer review that, check the accessibility side of things. The tools that we like to use are Wave Accessibility, which I'll do a little demo of shortly. Little Chrome extension, it's quite easy to use, and we use Browser Stack as well to audit our websites. Now the content is in place at this part of the process. We'll do a check with the screen reader just to make sure that it's usable, again, which I'll do a little demo of shortly. And at this point, really, the process, the site has been through a lot of checks and quality control. Mm-hmm. Really, it's more of just a sign off and just making sure that there are no further issues that crop up.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So how can we help you with your accessibility? Extra Mile, we can perform an accessibility audit for you, where we'll review your website key pages against a specific standard. So with the European Accessibility Act, for example, that requires WCAG 2.1 level AA. So we'll take your key pages, do an audit, and find any potential issues that arise from that, and can present them to you as part of that audit.
We can also perform a design audit, so looking specifically from the visual perspective. So again, like Andy said, we'll do it again. We'll audit it based on a set standard. We'll review website against accessible UX best practice. So we'll audit colour contrast, navigation performance, that kind of thing. So yeah. And then we can also, obviously, just from a consultation perspective, we can provide bespoke service. So if you've got any general accessibility concerns, we can talk through them with you. Even if it's just a chat, even if you've got questions, we're more than happy to provide information and guidance where you need it. And I think that then kind of ties us in nicely to our sort of last section, where we want to talk a little bit more about what actions you can take moving forward. And we'll start with the quick wins.
Yeah, cheers, Shan. So we've just listed some things that you could go away after today and have a look on your website and try and improve the accessibility of your web pages relatively easily by doing these few things. So one of the key ones is ensuring that your website images have got alternative text or alt text. Alt text is just a description of the image. It quite often is a thing that's overlooked when content is added to a web page.
Yeah.
But it is really important, which I'll show you in the demo, for screen readers and search engines alike. Check the use of page headings within your pages, so they should always have a H1 at the top, and then afterwards you would then drop down to a heading level of 2 and 3, and then if you were into a new section, again you would reuse heading 2. Quite often heading levels are skipped, or they're used as a style feature rather than a structural feature, and that brings around issues for screen readers and accessibility. So yeah, it's really key, don't skip heading levels.
Definitely.
You can add captions and subtitles to your videos. So if you're using YouTube or Vimeo, for example, you upload your video and it will automatically create captions and subtitles for you. You can then edit these via the sort of admin panel for whichever platform you're on. But if you've embedded a video directly into your website, then yeah, you're going to need to add captions and or make subtitles available.
Manually.
Yeah.
I think maybe from a general performance perspective, we'd always maybe advise YouTube or Vimeo or like an embed feature, because obviously if you embed an MP4 on your website, obviously it's going to massively impact performance, which is again an implication from an SEO perspective. So I think that's just a general note there as well.
Yeah, agreed, Shan. So use meaningful text for all links. Avoid the use of click here, essentially, which I'll show you why in a second. And finally, just make sure that all of your form fields have got labels on them.
Yeah.
Again, a stylistic thing. Sometimes these are removed, but that really does impact the usability for all of your users.
Yeah.
As far as form fills.
A label will usually be formatted, so like, if you've got like a field where you can input your full name, like right above it you'll have full name, so that is basically your field label, so we need to ensure that they are there.
Yeah. Right, time for a demo.
There you go, Andy.
Right. I'll just change the screen that we're sharing on.
So, what's the one?
This one.
Can you see that, everyone? Just shout up if you can't, and then we'll know.
The mouse has disappeared.
There you go.
Is that? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, that's good. Right. So we have. Let me just make sure that that's all been saved. Yeah. This seemingly normal, pretty standard looking web page. Don't be alarmed by the stressed looking cat. It is an AI generated image.
He had a lot of fun creating those.
And we've got a few bits of text, we've got some links and some headings in there. If I turn on the screen reader, hopefully you can all
heading the important heading level 1.
All hear this.
Entering the importance of access link. Uncategorized. You are currently on a link. To click this link, press Control Option Space.
Thank you. I think he's called Daniel, that guy. But so if I'm just browsing the web page, so I would expect the next thing for it to read out or let me know is on the page would be a description of this image.
Uncategorized link.
If I
click here,
use the screen reader.
To click this link, press Control Option Space.
To go through the web page content, you can see it's just completely skipped that image. So I will just turn that off while I edit this now. So
voiceover off.
Thank you. So yeah, it's almost as if that image is not in this web page to a screen reader, and the reason why that is, if we go to the admin, is that the alternative text field is completely empty. So if I just add a description here of explaining what is in the image. So if I just look at like a distressed cat browsing an inaccessible website on a laptop. Let's be really descriptive. And
it just goes to show as well, having it really descriptive is important. So if you just put cat in there, it's just going to be cat to a user, but give them some context.
Probably we've got a typo. Should fix that. So if I save that page now and go back, turn on Daniel again.
Written by heading level 1. Entering the link. Uncategorized. Heading level 1. The importance of accessibility. Heading link. Click link. Uncategorized.
I'm going to refresh the page.
You are currently on an toolbar link.
And then
uncategorized. You are currently on a link. Distressed cat browsing an inaccessible website on a laptop. Image. You are currently on an image. Link.
So
click here. Distressed
I'll
cat
just
browsing
turn
a split
Daniel
group.
off.
Written by link. Andy in link. Uncat voiceover off.
So yeah, you can see now that the alternative text has been added to an image, and it gives the clearer your description or the alternative text that you add, the better understanding a screen reader and all of your audience who browse your website are going to know what the image is, essentially. So if we were to do a similar thing and look at how screen readers interpret all of these links that I've added, you'll see I've used click here.
You kind of heard it at first, didn't you?
It was it, yeah. So with a screen reader, you can actually browse all of the links on a page.
VoiceOver desktop group. You are currently on a tab
So
inside a group. To select links menu.
When I'm on the links, if I just scroll through them all.
And be uncategorized. Click here, click here, click here. Visited.
So hopefully you all heard that.
VoiceOver off.
Thanks, Daniel. So if you've got multiple links within your page content and all it says is click here, then the screen reader and the person using the screen reader is not going to know, if I click that link, where am I going to go, because it's taken out of context. So what you really need to be doing would be adding the hyperlink, in this instance here, to view full image, so that the screen reader read that out to the user. Likewise, if you're going to add a link for somebody to contact you, you say contact ExtraMile, rather than click here to contact us and make the click here a hyperlink. So that's just a really basic example of image alt text, why that's important, and also the adding meaningful links. Finally, I just wanted to show you Wave. So this is a Chrome add-on, and it reviews audits the page that you're on for accessibility, and highlights some of the things that are correct and that are right with it, where it's passing, and also things where there may be some issues. If we look here, we were talking about adding clear structure to your web page. If I just turn off some of these notifications so the page looks a little bit clearer. So we can see here that we have some skipped heading level notifications. I'll just turn these off as well, they're not relevant to this demo. Then we scroll down and it will actually highlight where I've skipped the heading levels. So if I then go back into editing the post, we can see here, so we've got the H1 at the top, which is just the title, and then this is my first heading, and you can see I've gone from a H1 directly down into a H3, so I've skipped heading 2. So for this to make to be accessible and to be semantic, you would want that to be a H2 heading. Likewise then, as we go further down, this has gone H2 to H3, we want to set that to be a H3. If I do the same for this here, and then just double check this one, so that's already a H2. If I save, do a refresh,
there you go,
and open up Wave. Shan, your mouse is all backwards compared to mine.
sorry.
Right, so there's one, I've missed one, but you can see that there's only one there, and that's because I'm going from a H2 to a H4.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that your website has got the styling available to make your headings the size that you want them to be. But yeah, and that was a quick demo, just some stuff we were going to run through for you, so you can see that in action. Hopefully that makes sense and you feel that you can go away and look into those things on your own websites.
Definitely.
So I just want to share with the... Do you know where this has gone? Share.
Show meeting.
I do this all the time. And that is this one.
There you go. Amazing. Cool. Nice one, Andy. So let's go back over here. Next screen. So let's have a look at some long-term actions then.
Yeah. So we're classing these as longer-term actions because they're probably going to require a bit more of a systematic approach where you're going to need a developer or a designer to get involved. But you can have these as a takeaway of things that you might want to go and review. So the first one is checking your website colours. Shan mentioned this a lot earlier as far as in design. Wave will highlight contrast issues for you. It's then how you go and fix them. But the WCAG standards that we try and adhere to are very clear guidelines as far as contrast. So you need to check the accessibility of downloadable media such as PDFs. So these are quite commonplace on websites. To make them accessible, you're going to want to make them using Word or Acrobat or Google Docs and export as PDF. This way it ensures the documents are tagged properly, so headings are headings, lists are lists, etc. And you can add alt text as well within the PDF or images. You can have a review and rewrite in accessible written content on your web pages. Shan went through this during the content part of our process earlier, but really you want to write in clear, plain English, keep sentences short and avoid jargon.
And also, like Andy was saying, you've got call to actions as well in text, so click here to view, to contact us. Do an audit of that as well, just ensure that the link is more direct and actually applies to where the user's going to go rather than just click here.
Definitely. You could have a professional audit your website, or get a report and make sure that any known issues to a set accessibility standard are highlighted, and then you can sort of decide on your course of action going forward.
Yeah.
And finally, just prioritising accessibility really and influencing others. I think at the start a lot of you answered that it's quite important to you personally, and it's just making sure that you share that with everybody that you work with really. And
like I say, going back to the myths and stuff, it's not just as well about the digital experience, it's about the whole part of the business. That's going to be a massive thing moving forward. So I think, like I say, the more knowledge you guys have, the more that you can then influence others within your business to have a positive change. Obviously, Andy mentioned Wave as being one of our favourite dev tools. From a design perspective, I'm quite passionate about Stark. It is a paid for feature, but it's fantastic. It's not just design, it'll give you lots and lots of different recommendations for alt text, meta descriptions, how to write content, making sure that colour contrast is there, and also give you some suggestions as well. So yeah, I would fully recommend that one, or having a look at it at least. And then Pika. So Pika, I've put some links in here. Obviously, we'll share this slide deck with everyone today, so you can obviously click on these links. But Pika is just a Google Chrome extension, and it basically, you click on it, you click two colours, and it'll tell you what the contrast ratio is. And it's really good from a design perspective because it can quickly tell us, if something's going to be, if two colour combos are going to be accessible. So some really, really cool tools there. I think just to summarise everything that we've talked about today, accessibility is a must, it isn't optional. Prioritising it creates better experiences, it reaches a wider audience, and it strengthens your business for the future.
You need to make it part of everything that you do and empower everybody to engage fully with your brand.
And yeah, just to recap, so some of the key points that we feel that you should take away from this session. So accessibility impacts user experience and brand reputation.
Businesses have a legal obligation to comply.
Accessibility can have a direct impact on marketing conversions.
Being accessible is simple as long as you prioritise it.
That's really important.
So all your projects make accessibility one of the priorities at the start, and it should be pretty simple to implement all the way through.
Definitely. And also, just as a general note, so we actually do have another ExtraByte scheduled for Friday the 14th of November. The time is to be confirmed, but it will probably be the morning again. We're going to be talking about how you can flex your marketing plan to increase digital leads. So it'll be a open panel.
Yeah.
I think Andy and I are joining it as well.
I think we're on
gonna
it,
have a
yeah.
little chat.
Yeah, quite a few of us on there, so it should be quite good.
Yeah.
Some good takeaways for you all on that one again.
And the sign-ups for that one will be going live this week on our website. So yeah, if you've got any questions about that as well, just drop us a note or keep an eye on our website.